All just was talking.
Okay,
but
we're
I
live
wanted
now.
to be nice. Hello, people who are watching or people who are watching this later. This is Professor Kelsey's book club, a book club that started 6 months ago, and then Bobby didn't read a book for 6 months, and we were on a hiatus. So I feel like before we start talking about the book, we need to give lore of the book club.
Okay.
Primarily that Justin didn't know what a book club was. I thought we invented it, which was a great
I don't
first
remember this
episode.
at all.
You don't remember this?
No.
I think he knew what a book club was, like the idea of a book club. He just had never done one before, so he didn't know how they went. I think was the situation.
Because I listened to it like a couple of weeks ago because one of my friends read Clara and the Sun, and so I re-listened to the podcast and I was just laughing when you're like, "Oh, is this a book club?" And we're like, "Yes."
So my idea of a book club was we read the book and we're all like, it was good, it was okay, it was bad. Now do you guys want to get some beer?
This is an educated book club.
I like how you kept the name though.
Of course. It's just the lore is that it's just it's traveling.
It's traveling. Yes.
It's a traveling book club.
It's a traveling book club.
By the way,
Channels.
there were so many times, you know, that movie Megan that came out last year,
Absolutely, of course.
where I was like, "This is Clara and the Sun." Like this is the size of the being that was
You
in
mean
that.
it wasn't a full-sized adult?
It wasn't Anne Hathaway walking around or whatever you said it was.
It still freaks me out. Like even looking at the Megan trailer, I'm like, I can't. I can't look at this.
It's the when she does that weird little dance thing that she does. I was like, oh.
Megan is camp, and I love it.
Yeah, so we did what we did, Clara and the Sun, and we did Good Omens. Those are the two that we did, correct?
Yeah.
And I chose for us to read The Glass Hotel.
You did.
I read it.
I read it.
I have already said to both of you.
Bobby admitted it.
I admitted it, all right? It was my fault. I was having a bad mental time at the time.
It's fine, whatever, excuses.
I did read it eventually, though, and it became one of my favorite books I've ever read, if that makes anybody feel any better.
It was good, but we're not here to talk about the Glass Hotel, unfortunately.
No.
Maybe we could do a bonus episode sometime in a year, and maybe we can remember it somehow.
Well, maybe you can pick another Emily St. John Mandel book, and we can read that.
I have Last Night in Montreal.
I
told you guys I was going to read.
You did.
I'm willing to put it on.
Of course,
I'm willing to remove it from my pile.
You're reading the one that's not basically a quasi sequel to The Glass Hotel.
Times I have to explain it to you.
It's
that I prefer to read authors' books in publication order. I didn't know that she published this book first before I read Station 11.
Isn't there more books before Last Night in Montreal?
Don't tell me this.
Do you not have the internet, Kelsey?
Okay, hold on.
I'm pretty sure she has more books, but other than that, right?
No. Okay, hold on. My life might be ruined.
I mean, we're not talking about Star Wars yet, but we will talk about Star Wars eventually.
Yeah, this is actually a new revelation that I have to.
This is old business, so when you have a meeting, you got to do the old business in the meeting first before you get to the new business.
No, Last Night in Montreal is the first book.
Oh, it is the first, but there's a couple in between that and Station 11, right?
Yeah, the Lola
You're basically
Quartet.
reading her like I played Resident Evil.
Yes.
Out of order.
Yes.
Listen, okay, and this one has Montreal in the title.
It does.
So I was intrigued, but we're not here to talk about Emily St. John Mandel, our queen.
Our queen, yes.
We're here to talk about Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule.
Wait, where is it?
It's blurring it out. I've got this oh, there it is. There, now it's showing up good. There.
Honestly, that looked really professional though, because I never noticed your background was blurred until right now. It's beautiful, Justin.
This is right here. I could bring up the cover, but it's a black.
I've got it on my Kindle too.
Okay. I also have my Kindle somewhere.
I also have it on Audible.
I too have it on.
I can't do Audible. I just can't do it.
Audible's the only place I can listen to Star Wars audiobooks, and it frustrates me to no end, but I have to save up all of my
credits
for it at the end of the year when I read Star Wars. Anyways, so the first question, what did you guys rate it? Very quick thoughts. Bobby, go.
Quick thoughts on the book itself? Like
your feelings.
My feelings about the book?
Yeah.
I can sum it up with, the probably least interesting thing to bring up in any sort of discussion about this stuff, which is that I liked it. Like, I think that it is, I think it has some really strong elements to it, and I think it also has some pretty weak elements to it. Some of those are in this through the lens of Star Wars as a thing, but some of them are also through the lens of, structuring a story and how things build and pay off and stuff like that. So I enjoyed it there, and we'll get into the details of why, but I definitely have reservations about it. So that's my general feelings on it.
Justin? Oh, wait, Bobby, what'd you give it? Did you say it?
No, I didn't realize you said to give it a star out of. I forgot how many stars we given it out of here. Out of 5, I would say like a 3.5 would be my go on this one.
Sorry, Justin, go on.
So I am a Star Wars historian
Mm-hmm.
in another life. So my history with Star Wars is checkered at best. I've seen all the movies. I've barely watched any of the TV shows, the animated TV shows. I'm caught up on some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I came into this very excited because it takes place in a time period where you literally have to know nothing. You just have to know Jedi.
This is the first thing like in that universe. Yeah.
And I came away from the book feeling good enough to continue because I'm currently in the 3rd book.
So you read Into the Dark?
Into the Dark.
No, he's talking about just the main series, Kelsey. So this and then Rising Storm.
Okay. All the like Charles Soule ones.
No, so it's a different author every time.
Every time, yeah.
But then, then Into the Dark is one of these books.
Yeah.
It's by Claudia Gray.
Yeah.
And she's like, I stan for her as a Star Wars author. That might be the one
I'm currently reading. I'm trying to see. Anyway, the main gist of it is I liked it. I liked it a good amount. I also have reservations about some of the things narratively, and also having a feeling of some things in this feel a little bit forced. And we can get into that. But again, I enjoyed it enough to continue the series and see where these characters go.
Okay, perfect. We forgot the lore that Justin knows just everything about Star Wars, and me and Bobby are the newbies.
Yeah.
So.
Also, I would rate it probably about the same as Bobby. I would say like a 3.5.
Okay.
Also, and the 3rd book in the series is called Fallen Star.
Okay, yeah. This is so you've read Into the Dark already. I'm just asking because one of the characters in here appears. Multiple characters actually appear in that book.
It's not Into the Dark.
Into the Dark is not one of the like.
That's crazy.
Core books. So Justin was with me on this journey via text message where I was like trying to find a definitive like list of like,
the order
and like what were like the, the absolute musts, what were like the good. So I found a Reddit on the High Republic Reddit. There was like someone made a thing that was 3 tiers. It was basically like core, which is like just these novels basically. I think there's 4 of them out at this point.
3. The 4th in this particular series comes out in November.
Okay, so the 4th is coming out. Then there was main story, which in the dark or Into the Dark, whatever it's called, is part of the main story. Like if you want to get the whole story, but it's not part of like it's like the Mandalorian. Not I guess the Mandalorian's a bad example. It's kind of, but it's sort of like a Disney Plus show, and these books are like the main episodes 4, 5, 6, whatever. Like it's like yeah. So that's how it breaks down.
This is one of my main gripes because I find it's so confusing, and I'll get into my reading. But when I was reading this, I started to like pick up on the names of characters, and I was like, wait a second, I read these people already in Into the Dark. And then slowly I was like, wow, it's almost like they're a collective.
It's almost like it's all connected in a universe, Kelsey.
I did not like this book at all.
Okay. Interesting.
I gave it 2.5. So like literally right in the middle, because there were some things that interested me toward the end, but I really hated the writing. And that's something that I wanted to start with, just because Charles Soule is primarily a comic book writer, and I feel like it really came off in the book. And I don't know if you guys had felt the same, but I felt like it was very hard to distinguish who were main characters or characters that I should have picked up on as main characters. And if I hadn't read Into the Dark, I don't know if I would have cared about any single person that appeared in this book. And for those that don't know, there's the Jedi who talks all the time about how she's going to the Starlight Beacon and how her Padawan is coming with her. They're from Into the Dark. And Marchion Ro also makes appearances throughout this series. And it was only because I started recognizing their stories that I was like, oh, wait a second, maybe these people are a bit more important. But I definitely could tell that he was coming from a background of comic book writing, because it really felt disjointed, and like perspectives would switch within the middle of a scene, and multiple perspectives would be within chapters. And I found that to be very chaotic when reading / listening on Audible.
Yeah.
Audible, sponsor me, please.
Professor, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Do we want to just quickly summarize the summarize what happens in the book?
That would have been the professional thing to do.
That's usually what we've done. That's usually what you've asked us to do. You've usually called on one of us to try to summarize the
Sorry,
book.
Bobby, go redhead.
So
I'm out of my game. I forgot.
Light of the Jedi, like we said, is the first in this High Republic era, which I believe is a couple hundred years, right before. No, it's not thousands. That's Old Republic. This is a couple hundred years. Yoda is alive.
Yoda's alive
in this. So I think it's like 300 years, something like that. I think it's something like that. 300, 400 years before the prequel era. So it's meant to give you the... Mark says, summarize it for me, Poppy. So it is meant to show you the Republic before it was in decline, right? The height of this beautiful galactic democratic body that exists, where there are thousands of Jedi all at their full power, and this tells the story of basically this cruiser called the Legacy Run that's going on a supply run. It runs into something in hyperspace which is not supposed to be able to happen. Basically, it breaks apart in hyperspace, and it creates this cascading series of catastrophic events because its bits are flying out of hyperspace at near light speed and crashing into things like meteors, basically. So it's, the immediate problem is a single system called the Hetzel system, which is where we first kind of get our first introduction to the Jedi. And our main Jedi of this is Avar Kriss, which is like the main Jedi of our story. But as Kelsey said before, I do agree that we get a lot of characters in a lot of different places, and we don't stick with one character very much at all. But it tells the story, basically, this happens, so the Republic closes hyperspace down in the Outer Rim, which are these planets that are far away from Coruscant, which is obviously the core middle of the Republic. You know anything about Star Wars, it's the giant city planet that you've seen. And so basically the task of the whole thing is to figure out what happened, why it happened, and how to stop it. And so they can reopen the hyperspace lanes and also open this thing called the Starlight Beacon, which is this giant space station. It's like in the Outer Rim that's meant to extend out the reach of the Republic and make the Outer Rim feel like they are more a part of the whole Republic and not kind of like the also-rans of it. And so you get kind of the good guy perspective and the bad guy perspective, which is this group called the Nihil, who are responsible for it, are on purpose or not, is kind of one of the, I guess, the mysteries of the book. And basically both sides sort of intersecting with each other, trying to one up each other, and one trying to get away from the other while the other tries to figure out what happened. I don't want to say exactly what happens because I'm sure we'll get into that. I don't want to say that, all the little events, but that's basically the story. It's a very simple story when it comes down to it. It really is just bad thing happens, good guy wants to get it, bad guys want to get away with it. That's really the story of Light of the Jedi.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely agree. Definitely agree that it's a simple story. I think even down to the name of the antagonist, which is the Nihil, which I'm sure is a little clever play on words of nihilistic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I was like, Okay, I see you, Charles.
I mean, it is Star Wars, so I mean, there is some of this stuff exists all over Star Wars, but yes.
Oh wow, A plus, A plus.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you.
Oh, perfect, perfect. That's the point.
Yeah.
So, Justin, do you agree with us in terms of the writing style of this, like here and there perspectives?
Yeah.
Or
So
no?
it does feel. Bobby had messaged me when we were first reading because the both of us were kind of
Okay,
taking
leaving me
our
out.
time. We assumed you had already finished the book.
Yeah. We would have, and also we would have spoiled it for you if we had texted you, because
Yeah.
you started reading it after us, because you read faster than we do. So
And he was like, there are so many characters being thrown at me. And so, like, from my point of view, the way I thought of it, and this might sound a little bit crazy, but like, if I was not reading, it reminded me in some ways of reading Game of Thrones for the first time. And I'll tell you why. Because in Game of Thrones, you realize the main player is by who's talking. If they're not talking, they're not a main player. And so that's how I felt about the book. It's like, okay, I'm getting, the first couple of chapters, it's like, okay, new person. But from there, it rarely ever switches to anybody else's point of view. It's just those like 5 or 6 characters. And so I was meeting new people, but until I read about them, I'm now in the 3rd book and I'm like, who is this person? Okay, that's that person again. That's right. Like I have like, there exists in this gray space where it's just Jedi.
Yes.
And
yes.
Once I will say later on, some of these gray people actually get their own chapters. And so they're just moved in. It's like, okay, now I care about what's going on with you. So
I felt the opposite. I was
Really?
like, why do I care about them now? The chapter that they're gonna die.
it did seem like if a character got a chapter that hadn't got a chapter before, they were dead. That always seemed like what was going to happen.
Like, and I didn't really care about them because I don't feel like we were given enough time to care about them. And I think this is my main issue with the book, is that Jedis are just good. So first of all, I can't tell the difference between any of them because all their motivations is just to save the world. So great. Or to open the Starlight Beacon. If I had to hear that one more time, I was going to explode. And I think that that's why maybe the movies are a bit more successful in this sense, is that there's not a constant, like, I don't know how to explain it, like too many people that are just saying, oh, we need to be good. They felt more complex.
Kelsey,
but I feel like because there were too many.
Republic.
We are all the
It was
Republic,
so
Kelsey.
It was so annoying.
We are
It
all
was
the Republic,
so
Kelsey.
fucking annoying. I couldn't take it. And then I'm reading reviews on Goodreads and people are like, we are all the Republic, and they have like pictures of like shining Jedi. I'm like, I cannot handle this. And I feel like I've always been a very much like, I like antagonists. Surprise, surprise. But I just feel like antagonists are always more complex. And I feel like in here, like reading from so many Jedi's perspectives, I was like, okay, we get it. We get it, government. You guys are good. We understand.
Let me interject for a second. And I had mentioned
right
that things feeling a little forced. This is a Democrat's wettest of wet dreams. I realize that we're supposed to be going to a place where everything is good. But everything can be good without feeling like there's a lack of, maybe not emotion, but like feeling something. Like it's just like it felt like Pleasantville in a way. Like, nope, nothing bad could happen. We are all Republic. We are all Republic.
Positivity.
Yes.
People are dying, but as they're dying, they're like, but we are all Republic. It's like, okay, like, there has to be more. There has to be levels of this. And there was just so much of that to me was the most distracting part of the book.
I absolutely agree with you. And I'm gonna read. I marked a passage of this because I was some of this.
Bobby, I can't listen to this.
Right at the beginning. And I'm coming from somebody who, like I said, I enjoyed the book. Right, I'm not totally on Kelsey's place where it's like you just totally disliked it, but. The Republic was at peace and looked like it was going to stay that way. Everyone was happy living their lives. The Republic worked. Like, that's why
the rest of the movies happen.
It's just bullshit, right? And that's the thing. And there are a couple of times, like there's something later on, I think I marked it too, but I don't have to read the exact thing. It's in this early section where they're trying to get people off of the Hetzel or whatever. And, they're like, well, some people just don't have the means to get off of the planet. Like they they sort of zone in on this and to say this, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe this just.
I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, maybe this opening was just like a way to be like, yeah, this is what everyone thinks, but here's the reality of how it actually goes. But their answer for that, and again, this is one of the things where I feel like sometimes there are times where it gets what the movies and the whole universe isn't trying to say, its whole existence. Sometimes it doesn't. Where the Jedi come in and they're just like the answer, right? They're just like,
yes,
this is injustice. We're gonna stop this injustice, and they manage to do it. You know what I mean? And I feel a little bit like that undermines any struggle in the book, because it also makes it seem like it's also because the bad guys, right, the Nihil, are specifically kind of drawn in a way where you would think they were they're played as like the outskirts of society, right? They're people who didn't fit in society, so they went off and did this. But the reason they don't fit in society is because they just love murdering people. Like that is basically what it says. Their description is like, we do this because we just love murdering and stealing, you know, and this is the place for us. And I'm like, this is too simplified. Like it's too black and white. It's too. These guys are freaking, you know, Immortan Joe from Mad Max Fury Road. That's what they are. They're just like those people. It's Mad Max, basically.
Yes,
in space. Essentially, is exactly what it is. With, you know, Marchion Rowe basically being a Immortan Joe in many ways, and that's it. And the Jedi are just like, you know, in many ways, perfect beings who don't make any mistakes. As far as morally, right? Not, they do make mistakes in battle or they do mess up, and that's sort of importantly underlined here, I think, in several places. But it doesn't seem like they're ever going like, do I do this good thing or do I not do this good thing? And it's never that option, right? It's always like, we're doing the good thing. How we go about doing the good thing, we'll see. And so I feel like it doesn't leave a lot of room for. It doesn't leave a lot of room for nuance in what's happening. And that was my major issue, my major issue with the book. And, you know, what you were saying before, Kelsey, too, about the amount of characters, I said this to Justin, I said, it feels like, and Kelsey knows, because you've read a lot of fantasy books and a lot of fantasy, like, starter books, right, that are like the first in a franchise, where they're just like, well, let me just tell you 700 names, and you figure out which one is the one you're supposed to remember at this point. And there were times with a Jedi where it was like blah 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 and his Padawan blah 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 and 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 blah 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 blah.
I counted it happened 4 times in the book where he would be like, and this person was here, this person, and Yoda was back from his little vacation, and it was like, okay, we get it, you know, all the Jedi, I understand. You don't have to name them every time we have a party. Yeah.
And there are things too where I just. There are times where the story is going, right? There's something happening, and it feels like he pumps on the brakes to describe the shape of the vector for the 700th time, like the ship that they fly. And I'm like, I know. I know. Can we? And so I started doing the thing where I kind of just eyes glazed over. Let me get through 4 sentences where I'm not really reading them, and okay, now I'm back into the plot, and that's okay. In the first 100 pages, but in the last 100 pages, that shouldn't be happening anymore. So those are my main problems with the book. Honestly, were those things that we're talking about right now.
Sorry, I had to get more comfortable because the spotlight is on my face, and I'm getting.
That's where it's supposed to be, though, Kelsey. It's supposed to be on your face. It's supposed to get on your face.
I know, but I was gonna say that I think this all comes down maybe to his writing style and the amount of pages that he probably had to write, and not necessarily because obviously they didn't want to have this super huge, intimidating first book in their new canon. And where nobody has to know anything about Star Wars, you could really just jump in. I would argue that I think you do need to know a little bit about Star Wars, or at least you can't go into this not knowing anything. You can't go in and not know who the Jedi are, because I think that you would have. I think everybody knows maybe enough, but I'm trying to think, and I don't think people who've never seen Star Wars never I think of my boyfriend who literally knows zero thing. Maybe Darth Vader's name. That's it. I don't think he could go into this and understand what hyperspace is, why it's important, what are the outer rims, why the Jedi are in charge. Like, I think there's a lot of things in here that you have to have a base knowledge. And I think it's really confusing, especially when Charles Soule is flip-flopping between perspectives. And you have to keep up with that sort of comic book and movie even style of consuming a story. And being able to like flip flop between the perspectives and know that, okay, the Niles, okay, yes, they said we love murder and blah, blah, blah. But like knowing that, okay, these people are bad and they will be the antagonists, and understanding oh my god, stop, she's a professional. Is my voice crisp?
It is very crisp.
And understanding that the action in the book is very akin to other aspects of Star Wars media that have been consumed before. And sometimes with what makes a solid like first book in a sci-fi or fantasy series to me is when someone can jump in and it's not that confusing, where I find in here, if you're not very accustomed to this quick back and forth type of reading style, or even like just observing style, it can come off, I think, more difficult than not to understand. I don't know if that made any sense.
It makes sense, but I will say I disagree with you on a few points. One, I cannot picture someone who has no interest in Star Wars and not ever seen any Star Wars being like, I want to read this Star Wars novel first for the first thing I ever want to do in Star Wars. Okay, so I think this imaginary person you're talking about is like
might not exist.
It might not exist, or it's like 0.0001% of people who pick up this book. B, I think that he spends an awful long time describing the Jedi, what their powers are, where they get their powers, what their situation is. So I think he does spend a lot of time talking about that stuff. I think
maybe I skipped over it. Like
too much time would be would be my estimation.
I will say, jumping on Bobby's point for a second there, in speaking of things I did like about the book, I liked how they actually took the Jedi's point of view about a couple of things and expanded on it.
I agree, yeah.
We've never heard, at least I haven't in any of the movies or the shows, hear a Jedi explain what the Force means to them and how it can mean different things to different people. Like to our main character, Abar Chris, it's a song. It's a song that she hears and she feels. But one of our other Jedi, Elizar Man, it's an ocean. Like, Kelsey, did I say the name wrong? He got that face. Elizar.
No, I just think it's lame. Like the belief in the Force. Anyways, go on.
They're Jedi. That's the whole thing, Kelsey.
I know.
I not like Star Wars. Is that the problem?
You know what I was thinking about? I'm like, I don't think I like Jedis.
That's the whole thing with Jedi, Kelsey. Is they're like monks. They're warrior monks.
I can't remember if it's in this book or one of the other ones, but it is in the second one. But she goes, one of the character goes, "Aren't you just a monk?" Like, do they have monks in space? How do they know that?
They are. Jedis are monks.
Yes, but I was saying, like, how does this character know what a monk is? Anyway, moving on. But like that was some of the things that I did like because he did describe their intense feelings about this, for lack of a better word, Force.
I mean, it is the word, Justin. You don't have to.
For lack of a better word, the word.
What I like pinging on that because about things I liked and going off, we're talking about the Jedi and the Force. I did like that we got a ton of stuff here with Jedi doing shit that wasn't lightsaber based, right? It wasn't like, in fact, there was very little lightsaber action in this book, all told.
Except when they used it as a battery. Yeah,
which was that I thought was cool. I was like, that makes sense. They always have this thing with them, right? Like, it makes this thing particularly theirs, right? And I did like that. And I did think I came up with thinking like, you know what? The Jedi seemed a little bit less of like dogmatic assholes in this era than they do in like the prequel era, because a lot of these people have like attachments and people they care about, and they get to retire.
That was the thing. They have a retirement plan. It's like, oh, you could just go do stuff after you're done. Like, but the thing is, like, so the part that jumped out to me the most was like two of the main-ish characters have like unspoken feelings about each other, or that
Mhm.
maybe I would like to grow old with this person. It's like Jedi aren't supposed to be feeling that. I'm about this.
They made Anakin into Darth Vader because he felt some stuff like this.
Because he liked fucking.
Yeah, because he just liked fucking. You know what I mean?
Well, with every advancement of religion, sometimes
You go backwards.
it gets worse and worse.
Yeah. But drawing those parallels, I find interesting, right? Because the prequel Jedi, right, are in decline, right? It's the end, right? Everything is, they've lost their connection to the Force in a lot of ways. Like they are grasping to hold on to what they have, which is why they become generals in an army in a war they don't really believe in. All these kind of things, right? And here, that isn't where they are, right? And I think if there was more nuance and more complexity in the Republic side of things in this story, I feel like I wouldn't. The Jedi part, I think, would work better as a sort of compare and contrast situation, because you could really see why you would be able to see why the Jedi had the place they had, right? But it seems like everybody just loves being good, so it doesn't seem like they really have a fight on their hands with anybody. Like even the senator, who seems like kind of cagey, really just wants the Outer Rim to have more stuff. You know, it doesn't seem, he doesn't have any other ulterior motive that you know about yet in this book, right? So I think that was a part of the issue. One of the things, Kelsey, just to go back to your bouncing around perspectives thing before we get totally off of it.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it so much. The thing I do mind, though, and this is the thing I don't like kind of across the board in writing. If you're switching to a character's perspective and you're in their head, which happens a lot here, right, where you're actually like you're hearing their thoughts, right, about what's going on, and you seemingly are seeing that they're most vulnerable, and the things are coming up where if you're really in their head, you would be hearing truths that maybe they're not speaking. Mm-hmm. There are so many times in this book where he's with a character, let's say Marchion Ro, right? You're with Marchion Ro for a couple of chapters, but yet he has this whole secret history and plan that you're not privy to, that he only sort of like, but guess what? I've got this purple cloud at the end, or whatever he goes, to the Jedi at the end, and it's like this purple thing or whatever. And I'm like, but we were with you this whole time. Like you didn't,
yeah.
You wouldn't be thinking to yourself, I've got a secret plan. You would be thinking about the plan. So I don't like when that happens. The fact that you don't know that he did it on purpose, like the whole Legacy Run thing until the end. And then he has the whole thing where he's like, only reason I wanted them to go to this place was because the Jedi were there and I wanted to maybe catch a Jedi. Yeah. And it's like, I thinking back to it, like the idea of like possibly happening, if you look at the things he did, it does kind of make sense, but it's such like a crazy dependent plan that like you would get a Jedi in a position where he's on a ship and you can gas him, right? Because there's no other way you're catching that Jedi, because those Jedi tore through those Nihil like they were nothing, So that is something about switching perspectives I don't like, which is like you can't jump me in somebody's head and then hide information from me, because that is not unless you're really going for like a unreliable narrator thing, which he's not doing, it doesn't work. It's the same thing with like, we should have known who killed Marchion Ro's father way before he was like, it was you, wasn't it? To the what's his name at the end, because we were in all of their heads, and they were all brought up to them at some point. Soul goes out of the way to write them thinking about the dad, right? And that he died. Every single time you're in with their head, they bring it up. None of them are like, and I fucking killed him. Like, and then none of them bring it up. And it's like, okay, like this should have come up if this was, you were being honest with the way you were writing this. So that, again, I'm talking about all the things I don't like about it, because that's what we're starting with. There are things I do like about it.
It's just because I hated it, and
I know, it's true.
But that is, I think, having an omniscient third-person perspective in multi-perspective books is the most effective way to convey a multi-perspective. However, these types of issues become a glaring flaw with omniscient narrators, because you know everything, and when they're like, I've been hiding it from my own brain the whole time, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And before we start seeing like the evil of Marchion Ro, he was always evil, but like in the beginning you could be like, this is just a guy with daddy issues.
Yeah.
And like he's a little evil. He doesn't want to shock his hyperspace pathfinder, but he struggled with it at least. So you're like, oh, maybe he's like struggling with this, having to lead the Nihil, and then all of a sudden, randomly, he's the most evil man alive, and I'm like, were you not like 12 in the last scene? Like,
it is jarring.
Yeah.
The way that he flips back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
because he makes Kylo Ren seem super competent for most of the book,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden it's like, actually, I'm the Chancellor. It's like, no, you're not. No, this doesn't feel natural. There was no natural incline to this, and strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they make it seem, the thing is, like, they also make it seem like the end, like every little thing that happened, he planned it. Like that's how they try to make it seem at the end. And it's like, I know that's not true.
like, why do I have to know about how every Jedi feels when the Force is happening, but I can't know that Martian Ro is this evil genius?
Yeah. It would have been way more, it would have made him and the Nihil stuff way more interesting throughout the book too, if that was what we got. Because for my money, like, for most of the book until the end, the Nihil were kind of like a lame bad guy to me, because I was like, this is not Jedi worthy. Yeah. This is not thousands of Jedi worthy of an opponent. Like, this is not like a bunch of raiders who happen to be able to jump in hyperspace. And the other thing too is, like, the reason that some of this other stuff where I'm talking about where we don't hear information feels cheap is because when they go to see those hyperspace expert people or whatever on that planet with the guy from the planet who's like a genius who makes the big robot array or whatever, they know, right, who did it, right? They know what's going on. They know that whoever this woman is, whoever this precog is who's stuck in this tube that he's shocking to make them hurt, obviously it's part of their family or something like that, because they know who the person is, and you get that from them. They're kind of like, oh, I don't know, I hope it's not this person or whatever, so they're hiding something, which makes them more interesting, right? Because that, like, they're hiding something, but they won't sell out their family, but they also don't like what they're doing because they're genuinely trying to help, the people who are trying to fix the problem. So that's a more interesting character to me than of me not knowing what their secret is or whatever.
A twist is not a twist just because you don't say it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not even a twist. That's the thing. It's not even a twist.
Why? I'm sure he meant it to be.
I know, but it's not even like, and there's like the problem is, like, there is some effective imagery stuck in this stuff, right? Like the ending when the Jedi is, and he has, what's the Jedi's name who's captured at the end? I can't remember the Jedi's name. Loden. He was one of the ones you actually spent a lot of time with. I was like, I have some investment in this guy and his Padawan who can't make the jump, stop his jump thing. Like Bell, did that was one of the most, I think, effective, like, you give me something simple about a character that goes right to the heart of who they are, and I remember it, and so when the character overcomes it matters to me, right? There's payoff, absolutely, and again, it's because the character isn't perfect, and the problem is they try to make all these characters too perfect. I think some of the Jedi too perfect.
Yeah, it was.
Like Avar Chris, what is
her deal?
What is her weakness? Nothing. She's amazing. Like, she's amazing. It is all about family, and so, but at the end, like, so that, that idea of like this Jedi prison, you have all these suffering people, so the Jedi can't focus, all that stuff. Interesting, right?
Fascinating.
Feels like it comes out of nowhere because Martian Ro seemed like he was just kind of like, I want things to be different, but I don't know how to do it. Like, that's how it was until that moment.
Yeah, I was literally like, you can do it.
Yeah, and then he's like, the other Jedi will come, and he's like, good, I've got this thing, and it's like, okay. And I know, like, right away at the beginning of the second book, because I read like the first 10 pages of that second book, and then I was like, I'm gonna stop because I don't want that conversation to bleed into this conversation. I know they kind of reveal it like pretty quickly about what it is, but it's like, but I still don't believe, no matter what you got, I just don't believe it. These Jedi turned a projectile, like a 20-ton projectile going at light speed and made it miss a sun with their minds. Like, I just do not believe that this guy can do it. I just don't believe it.
I will say, if anybody watched Rise of Skywalker and was just like, they're taking Jedi powers to like a whole other level of like non-believability, man, this book is not for you because the Jedi can do basically anything with the Force.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, I think you always knew that the Jedi are really powerful and this and that, but like at least in the movies or like the media that we've seen of Jedis, there's always been like some sort of complexity or some sort of conflict that they don't feel super overpowered. Where I think with this book, Charlie Boy was really trying to like hammer into us that working together is the best thing ever. And I feel like that was really the theme, that the Jedis were the strongest when they work together. And the Nihil aren't as effective because there's different sects of them. And that's like the most important thing. They're constantly talking about how there's like 3 groups and they all want to be better than one another. And that's why they're not working, because they're not working together. And the Jedis are working together. And that's why they're going to win. And they're all going to listen to each other, and they can all hear each other, and they can all move things with their minds. And the Nihil can't. And I feel like that was the whole theme of the book. And I was like, okay, I got it. Working together.
I mean,
they have telepathy now too, which is like,
well, they've always had that.
emotional.
They've always had that. They've always had that. Yeah, they've always had that. But the thing is, like, you know, what I think is interesting here, right? Talking about this more in the Star Wars context, right? Is the Jedi we've always seen, like I said, have either been at the end of their kind of like power, like at the waning part of their power, or brand new, right? Or just like, I'm a young Jedi like Luke who doesn't have a teacher like that or whatever. And I will say, if you watch some of the other media, like you watch something like more of the animated stuff or whatever, they do give you a little bit more of like different Force abilities, right? But still not like this. And like I said, I like the sort of like, this is what they were when they were actually the Jedi, right? When they were actually the thing that everybody talks about, and everyone seems to be so reverent about. This is what they're talking about, right? Is this era and this group of people. And, you know, I think, but my problem, like I said before, is just that everybody also just seems to be like, yeah, the Jedi are great. We love them. Get the Jedi in here. You know, like they like get them in here. And there isn't any sort of like back and forth, right? With a pushback against that. There almost is, again, at the beginning, there's this moment, and I have one of the things I marked down that I thought was interesting is, where is it? It's like someone says, oh yeah, it's when, you know, they're trying to figure out how to stop the pods or whatever from smashing. And I think they've already figured out that there are people on the pods or whatever. One of the persons says on one of the ships, says, miracles were for the Jedi. Like, this is not for us. Like, we need to just be good at what we do and be exacting and try the best we possibly can. But again, that stuff is kind of left behind after that. It's not really brought up again. And I think that's a shame. But there are things about it that I do like with the Jedi stuff, especially at the beginning. Like talking about the lightsaber thing, there's lines that the Jedi's lightsaber would not save Hetzel. It would be the Jedi themselves. Like, I like the idea that they're not warriors. Their weapons aren't their most important thing, which is what we've seen most of the time with Jedi in all of the movies and everything, is like, you get the lightsaber and that's the thing that makes you a Jedi, you know, and that's not what it really is. And there's other thing where it said, I like this line a lot. No more damage would be done by a lightsaber than its wielder chose. There was no collateral damage with the lightsaber. I just like that idea of the Jedi this era being very precise and conscious exactly of what was happening. And unlike in the prequels, right, when they see an injustice happening randomly, they stop to fix it and they don't go like, that's not our mission. We're not here to help these people. We're here to go do this other thing. You know, who cares if there are slaves here? Let's just move on. Like, they don't kidnap this kid, take him away from his mom, and then yell at him about why he's so sad that his mom's not here. Like, they don't do that. They don't do that here, right? They seem to actually care, you know, and they seem to be like, look, like this might be dangerous or this might not be like the most prudent thing, but these people are suffering and we need to help them. And I appreciate that about this. There are a couple of things, you know,
go to the positives. Go ahead.
Let me go to the positives, okay? I'm going to read some lines which I think are positive, which were the things that, as someone who's loved Star Wars for a very long time, loves to see in these type of things. There was this part where I think this was when Bell was trying to, when I had to actually do the thing where he jumped out or whatever it was. But there's this line where it says, the wind was not his enemy, nor gravity itself. They were both part of the Force, just as he was, just as the child was. If he fought them, if he was fighting himself, He should not try to fight. He should try to understand. Like, I think, like, it's just a cool look into how you perceive these things, different than what we've seen before. Or we've got someone like 900-year-old Yoda, like, squawking at Luke on Dagobah, where he's kind of telling him this, but, he's doing it in his, like, old, I'm a grumpy old green thing way. And it's not, like, this sort of elevated thing, which I enjoyed here. And there's also this other part which I thought was cool, which kind of was, I think, a good... it was almost like a peek into, like, some conflict within the Jedi's mission, but of course we draw away from that very quick, which was... they were talking to each other, and I think it was Loden and those guys. Yes, but we are guardians of two ideals, are we not? I don't know. Actually, I don't know. It said Yariel Poof, which again, it's like the names I can't sometimes.
I think the part that you're talking about right now is when they cut over to Coruscant when they were at the temple, right?
Oh, yes, you're right.
When the Chancellor is like, "Look, we need you guys to go hunt these guys down.
Yeah,
like we need you to go do this."
Yes.
And the council is meeting and being like, "Okay, we are basically the Avengers."
Mm-hmm.
And do we go where we're told or we're asked to go, or do we go where we think we should go? Do we step in here, or do we let things play out and have the Force dictate what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a back and forth between many members of the Council of the Jedi that we never hear from again to just say well, I think that we should step away and let the Force dictate what the Force will dictate. And other people are like, but we could step in and do the right thing and end suffering right now. Isn't that what the Force would want? And there's this nice interplay going on between all these characters.
Yeah. You're right, Justin. This is from that section. He says, but we are guardians of two ideals, are we not? Said Yariel Poof. Sometimes, unfortunately, they come into conflict. We must always strive for peace, but also justice. Peace without justice is flawed. Hollow at its core, it is peace provided by tyranny. Which I think, unlike a lot of the book, is like a critique of neoliberalism and the whole kind of politics of niceties, right? Where you're trying to say don't we can't start any problems because that we want it to be peaceful, but you're letting people get run over by people who don't care about your rules, right? If you do that. And I think that's an interesting back and forth. And I do agree with you, Justin, that scene is good, right? But again, it's one of the few scenes where seems to be some seemingly actual disagreement between inside this sort of body of people. And again, I don't know if it develops more throughout the other books, Justin, as you're obviously a little farther ahead than we are, and more about this now. But that was the thing I was mainly missing from this. And other than those characters we talked about, who I liked and who I felt connected to, I felt and I liked Elazir, man, her, Avar's, booty call or whatever he was. Because again, he had more going on, right? He was he tries to interact with the Force in different ways. He kind of doesn't really think all their teachings are really
and this is why he's not a master, which was also an interesting little juxtaposition there. And you're not a master because you do these things, but he's I don't care. I need to do these things.
Yeah.
That's the thing that was a little bit frustrating about this book and why I didn't rate it higher, because there's interesting ideas thrown. I don't want to say he threw a bunch of shit at the wall and just saw what stuck, but it almost felt by accident. It's he Marshawn wrote the book by accident a couple of times. He came up with really interesting ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I'm sure afterwards he was I meant this the whole time.
Yeah,
but that's the thing is there are really cool things about this book, and those small things, those little moments, were the ones that have now pushed me to read the rest of this series, in spite of the other things about the book that I don't like. But yeah, it's that type of stuff that was neat.
Yeah. And who knows, right? Who knows what it's like to write a Star Wars book?
That's what I was gonna say. I don't think he really I don't think they have a choice of where the story goes.
Yeah, no, I doubt it.
Yeah. And so it's I'm thinking maybe just his writing style wasn't right for this type of story. And maybe I think he would have done better with already established introduction. and then possibly taking that and being able to have a known ending, and like being like, okay, in like a second book type of thing, like, okay, we know how it's going to completely end. I just have to write this like middle portion I have where Marshawn Rowe is now, where he needs to be, and there's no real like there's not too many things that that would have had to be done. I'm a big hater of the way this was written.
I know. Martian Rowe, by the way, not Marshawn Rowe.
Okay, listen.
He plays for the Seahawks.
He plays for the Seahawks. Yeah, he's hilarious. And like my guess, my educated guess would be there is some sort of like writer's room for this whole thing where they have ideas and they break them down into books or comics or whatever, and they go, okay, Charles, you're writing this thing, and here's what you have to do. Go. And Claudia, you're writing this thing, and I don't remember the second author name, Scott Cavan or something like that is the second guy.
Cavan Scott, I think his name.
Cavan Scott, I got it backwards. You write this thing, right? And they have to all connect with these bits and do whatever in between. Because I do think, here's the thing, for me, the reason much like Justin, the reason I came away being a little more positive on it was because it did make me want to read more about this era and these stories and these and see what happens. I think it's a pretty good franchise starter, but I do feel like the first half of the book could have been 30 pages, not 150 pages.
I agree.
The Hetzel thing is so long. It's so long, and it's like I don't. It like there's a thing in the space station, right, with that group of people who like are trying to get the people off the space station, and the guy at the end's like, "You get out of here! I'm staying," or whatever. He like, I gotta push this button so this liquid comes down, and the droid's here, and he can that whole sequence. And I think one of those people comes back later on to help with the array or something. Like I can't remember what it was. But it just, other than that, like one character they bring back, it just felt like I'm reading like 3-4 chapters. It keeps going back to this thing. I don't know why I'm reading. Like, why is this part of the book?
We need you to understand that we are all Republic.
That's the thing.
We are the Republic. So we have to show these people dying.
Yeah.
Because we are the Republic. I will say, they bring in that couple, the husband and wife.
Yes.
Right? And they cut back to them a few different times. And they talk about sexy times.
Mm-hmm, they do.
Like things that they should be doing.
Which I like.
They're just gone.
I know.
They're gone. Like, okay, you're giving me the point of these regular human characters, and like their character, like they cut back to them like I said, like 3 or 4 times, and then just nothing
they're gone
again.
Yeah, I expect them to be part of like the end battle or whatever. Yes, absolutely, I agree.
I was gonna say that I feel like maybe these human characters were placed as like a normality of people that aren't Jedis, because I feel like what Charlie was doing in this book was that Martian Rowe was placed as an example of like an early Sith type of figure, very like powerful all of a sudden.
Maybe.
And the Nihil are the regular people that are like trying to survive, but they're trying to survive against what they believe is an oppressive government that's not letting them run wild and do whatever the hell they want. But they're kind of maybe the example of like normal bad. And
yeah, I guess, but they have like special warp drive ships that can jump anywhere, and they have like special weapons that apparently no one's ever heard of, and their ship looks like a storm when they're riding it. That's the problem, is like if they had been drawn in more of like, we're regular people who are been left behind by this perfect republic.
I think that's what he was going for.
But it literally just says like, we love murdering people. Like that's
okay, listen, everybody has hobbies.
The only reason that they're like even get into this supposedly, before the Grand Master Plan comes into focus on the last page of the book, was like they were contained to the outer rim, and it's like, oh great, the cops are here now.
Yeah.
I guess we'll kill everybody.
Exactly, that's what it feels like. like to them, like the Jedis are annoying.
Mhm.
The Jedis they're not saving people like them. They're just here to like establish like the idea is that they're making this beacon there, and it's kind of they're like, oh my god, we can't run around doing crime anymore. And they're upset about it.
But the thing is, like, if that was their story, though, that would have been more interesting what their story was, which they seem to have no concept
Yeah.
of what was even happening. Like, they were just, the whole group was just like, they didn't care the Starlight Beacon was opening. They didn't care about the Jedi. The only person who even mentioned the Jedi was Marchion Ro, really. It's just that one captain who he, like, kills at the end, who was like, you know, was like, I want to fight a Jedi or whatever. And then and he's like, I'd like to see you try or whatever. You know, like that was the only time they even talked about the Jedi. I mean, they seem to care about the Republic, like horning in on their like whole situation. But again, if they were just like, we're a band of criminals who like doing crimes, that would have been fine. But they just went so overboard with it, which is like, we kill, we destroy ships, we do whatever.
Planets.
I will say I did like the threatening planet sequence because I love that he fucks it up. I love that he fucks it up and he's like, oh shit. He's just like, I'm at it. We gotta get out of here.
We're gone.
We're gone. Oops. A billion people are dead. And that was number two. Again, Star Wars is always guilty of this, but it's like, I don't care that a billion people die. Like, it doesn't, unless there's like a person that I care about that that's the whole thing. It's like, it's too big. It's too big of a scope for me to care about. I need to know if like, you know,
you're not putting a reason why we should care about this planet. First of all, this planet random as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? But it's,
like, I mean, at least it was random and it wasn't like, you know, Tatooine or Hoth or like, at least they brought they knew something new.
Sure. But what I'm trying to say is like, if they were like, this is where we get, this is like the big major agriculture planet.
Well, it is where Bacta comes from, Kelsey. Okay. Do you know what Bacta is?
No.
Okay, so you know that tank that Luke's in at the end of Empire Strikes Back, and it heals him because he was about to die. It's like magic healing herbs, basically. Yeah. It's like it's like the medicine. It's like the thing that Boba Fett lays in the whole time in Book of Boba Fett. It's like the stuff that it's like an amazing like healing agent.
Okay,
and they're like,
clearly it exists somewhere else.
No, this is where it exists.
But it blew up.
No, it didn't blow up. Hetzel didn't blow up.
She's not talking about.
Oh, you're talking about Hetzel. I thought you were talking about Hetzel.
She's saying that there needed to be some sort of stakes on that planet.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, you confused me.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Did we read the same book?
No, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
I was talking about that planet.
Sorry.
Basically, it's supposed to be this threat that this planet's gonna explode, right? And I was just like, why do I care? About any of the stuff that's happening.
Even the main characters don't care that much.
It's
like, oh, these atrocities happened. 1 billion people died. And they're like, well, it wasn't that bad. Like, it could have been much worse.
Could have been much worse. They said that so many times. They said it so many times. It could have been so much worse. I'm like, so many planets got destroyed. You talk about 2 whole planets that got destroyed. Could have been worse. I mean, it could have been 3.
You know what? They have a perspective.
Galaxy's really big, guys. The galaxy's huge. All right.
That's what keeps them going.
Yeah. They're all gonna die one day anyway, so you know it's not that big of a deal.
No. You have to think like that. I think when the world rests on your shoulders.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, yes, absolutely. But it's telling the smaller stuff, right, was the stuff that I felt more like the thing where they're trying to save the family on that planet was like the most engaging part, I think, of the entire book to me.
I agree.
Yeah, because he spent more than 5 pages talking about it.
Yeah. And it was like, okay, I understand the stakes, right? These bad guys are trying to get this family to this thing. If they get here, it's lost, right? And we spend time with the family, we spend time with the Jedi, we spend time with the bad guys, and it's the only time where it really feels like, okay, it's not a whole planet, but I really feel invested if these 4 people get saved or not. And I wish there was more of that throughout the story. Like that scene in the space station where which I listened to this thing on the audiobook, which was kind of humorous to listen to, but when the Wookiee was like comforting the little kid or whatever, like I was like, okay, like Thank you. Like, let's actually see like the actual like
Collateral damage.
human collateral emotional damage of the stuff that's happening. And not this chancellor just being like, but when am I going to go open my big space station? Like, that was like the whole thing.
Well,
like, am I supposed to care?
Well, I stroke these two giant cats
Yes.
that hang out with me for reasons.
And again, she's another thing, like, someone who's that powerful, well, we're all adults, right? Someone who's that powerful does not get that powerful because they're the best person in the galaxy. It just does not happen. I'm not saying that she doesn't have good intentions, but to make her this, like, perfect person is not interesting. It's just not interesting to do that with that kind of character.
But how else would she carry out her great works?
Again,
Jesus. Literally Jesus.
I was gonna say that. She is Jesus.
Look, there are historical like leaders who have done similar things, right? Who have made their mission, their legacy to be, I did these amazing big things, right? But those people are very complicated people who do things for many, many reasons, not just, I want things to be better. Like, there's other reasons why. That can be her main motivation. I can believe that. I can believe there's I would love to see a good person who wants to do good things, but there's got to be a lot of compromises and a lot of people she fucking stepped on along the way to get where she is. Do not insult my intelligence as a reader that she's like, oh, she's perfect.
That's why
she's
I said
not.
in the beginning of the book, it's like a democratic wet dream. Like, this is utopia. Like, and that's exactly what they're going for. It's like, we're bringing our own feelings about people into the book, and it's just like, no, these are perfect people.
Yeah.
Perfect.
They are the Republic.
They are the Republic. We are the Republic.
Don't say that. I'm not. I'm hitching a ride with Marcion. I do want to say what I actually ended up liking about the book was the very ominous ending. I have what he says where he's like, oh, ha, 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 I got the Jedi. Thank you for bringing it to me. And I was like, okay. Now I'm interested to read where this story goes because there's like a motivation that I want to understand because it wasn't here. But it seems interesting, and he seems like a very evil character, and I would like to see what another author would do with this character.
Kelsey's like, finally, someone I can have a crush on.
Like,
does he wear black?
Where's he going?
Oh, he absolutely wears black. That motherfucker absolutely wears black.
Have you seen pictures of him? I'll find a picture for you.
I don't know what this guy looks like.
Oh no, I'll show you.
Well, there's like as part of the main canon story, Justin, that you need to read, there's like an audio adventure called The Storm Runner or something like that.
Yeah, the Tempest Runner.
The Tempest Runner. I think that's him.
Hold on.
I will say, we were talking a little bit ago.
Wow.
Oh, Jay, he's not what I expected at all.
But wait, that's him like after dark, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then when he's profesh. No, that's from the comics. I'm spoiling so much. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Yeah, go. I actually might read some of the comics. I was like, oh, this would probably be good in comic form. That's what I kept thinking when I was reading this book.
This is what he
that is cool. Yes. That is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I will say, listening to the audiobook, I did like the voice that like the audiobook reader gave him. Because it was like, he was like a little bit like snarky, but a little bit like understated. It was like a nice voice performance for him. But yeah, that scene, right, should have been like in the middle of the book. That's the thing. Like that, this book should have been the middle point of the book, and then we should have seen more after that. Is my main thing.
I definitely agree. I think it would have been more effective if like only half the book was spent where he was this like innocent.
Well, he was never innocent, Kelsey. That was what you brought to him.
You brought that to him because you wanted him to be hot.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, being called out here. What I thought he was is that I knew he was evil. I never said he wasn't evil. He had a poor old woman in charge of his plane that he electrocuted. Okay, I didn't say he was a good person. I said he potentially has complex feelings.
He does have complex feelings. Yeah, yes, that's probably true.
And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Kylo Ren who? And I wanted that to continue. And if he would have turned evil halfway into the book, and then we see this development of who they will be in these future comics, I think it would have been more interesting. But because it happens at the end of the book, you're kind of like, where did this come from? Because it does feel random, because up until that point, he is not innocent, fine, but like naive a little bit. Or what you're led to believe is naive, and then you find out like he was the guy that called and he was like, help me, Jedi, and all these other things. And I'm like, what? How do we not know this when we're in everybody's heads? It doesn't.
Yeah, I know.
How did they not feel that in the Force? They weren't like, they get this call and they're all a fucking freaking omniscient.
I don't know if the Force works over the telephone.
The Force, if they can move something out of the way from a sun, I think a telephone call is not going to be in the way.
There's a lot of problems.
No, there was a lot going wrong in that time, though. There was a lot happening on that planet in that moment. So the Force is a little bit is tumultuous. But what you raised, Kelsey, and kind of like your jokey way of saying it is something that I think, and again, I don't know how it proceeds in the next books, is like, when you make them seem so powerful, it's going to be tough to make them seem not as powerful to be able to be gotten right in another place. So we'll I have to see how it keeps going with that stuff. And but my whole thing is like, so there, I don't think either of you watch Doctor Who very much or at all, but there are a couple like mainstay villains, right, in the Doctor Who universe. One of them is the Daleks, who are those like things with like the things on their face, and they go exterminate. Those things. They're like Doctor Who's Joker, basically, right? They show up all the time. And there was always this joke among Doctor Who fans, which was like, whenever you got like an episode where it was like this, something crazy is happening in 1940s London, and there's seemingly this innocuous random person who's doing all of it. It was always like, there's a Dalek behind it. Like, and that was always the case, right? And so like in this whole thing I'm reading, I'm like, either this guy's a Sith or his dad was a Sith or something, because there's no reason why he'd be so knowledgeable about this stuff if that wasn't the case, right?
And
so
the Jedi so much as well. I think.
Yeah. And going like, and he gets to the thing again, another thing about the omniscient narrator thing, which is like, then he goes like, Marcion, it's not even my real name, and it wasn't my father's, and they don't even know who I am or who my father was either. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, who are you? Like, you can't just say that.
You refer to yourself as Marcion.
Yeah. Like that kind of stuff is just
weird names are a thing. Like,
oh yeah, the name's fine.
Kylo Ren.
I actually like his name. I like Marcion Rowe's name. Like, I think that name is good. Yeah. It like rolls off the tongue. It's nice. It's really, and none of the individual names I think are bad. Like, I don't think Avar Chris is a bad name. Whatever. It's just when he's like, it's Avar Chris and Scoobity Boop Vlabity Boop and Blah Blah Boop Booda Bloop and Zibba Boop Booda Boop, and they also in that time explains what they look like, what their race is, what their racist tendencies are, how they feel about the weather today, and I'm like, okay, like, can we just get to the, like, I'm never gonna remember any of this.
This may be racist, but everybody was human to me.
But
because that is super racist, Justin.
Most of them are picturing. I know most of them are not.
Most of them are not human.
I don't know. I can't tell you what was loaded.
He was a Twi'lek.
I don't know. You know what a Twi'lek is, Justin.
Is it? Who is it?
Share Twi'lek.
They have the like long thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know that.
Bib like Fortuna. Like, Bib Fortuna. Hera from the going to be on the Ashoka show, but also on Rebels. There's lots of.
I haven't seen any of those.
You've seen the trailer for Ahsoka.
I've seen the trailer, which doesn't exactly go out and tell me what their race is.
Yeah, that's a Twi'lek.
Okay,
that's a Twi'lek.
Had such good people lined up.
But they are all humanoid.
Yes, they all are humanoid. I mean, most Star Wars like aliens are pretty humanoid. They don't have a lot that aren't humanoid.
I will say
that one dude owned a diner, and
as a slight spoiler, I did encounter my first non-humanoid Jedi in the second book.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty cool. Speaking of Doctor Who, Avar was the 14th Doctor.
Oh, the Jodie. Jodie. Yeah. She looks like that on the cover. The cover, it looks like her. Jodie Whittaker from it looks like her. You were absolutely right.
But the thing is, I never saw the cover.
I know, but it looks like her on the cover.
So
And like I love thing is like I love like the universe of Star Wars, and I love all the different aliens, especially because I've watched a lot of like the shows and stuff like that, and read before before the Disney whatever, read a bunch of the extended universe books that they don't count anymore or whatever, and I love all the alien shit. Like I think like they have really interesting things, they have really interesting stories, cultures, all that stuff. My problem isn't having them. My problem is just like you can't give me 17 of them in 4 pages and expect me to act like you're doing anything with them. Like, go visit these planets. All the planets we went to definitely were all like human, and that was part of the issue for me. It's like this. They just act like humans. They just act like people on Earth act.
Yeah.
There
was one scene in this book where we're with him
Mm-hmm.
and for Justin for visual.
That's what a Wookiee is, Justin.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
And there is one scene where he's like, I hate being here because nobody understands me. And
Yeah,
A bad
they don't-
Wookiee voice.
and he's like, "Rrr," and in the
that was pretty good.
audiobook, they were doing that. And I was like, this is a meaningful moment.
Yes.
He does feel left out and nobody understands him, but some descendants of Han Solo for sure. And it's like this actually was cool. And if he was a main character, if they were the main characters and we only followed them and didn't freaking meme drop everybody, I think it would have made far more interesting
I have a question.
than
This just popped in my head. So what's
Sure.
basic? Would basic be English? I'm
English.
guessing?
It's basically
Okay.
English.
It's English, right? But they have translators to understand other races that don't speak basic,
Mhm.
but they don't give it to the Padawan that only speaks Wookiee.
So I don't know if they have that. They didn't really come up with that too much in the High Republic stuff in this book. That is very much in the like New Republic or like the prequel time.
So I
Like-
might be jumping books
Okay, so there you go.
because I know that the translators have come up in a couple.
But those protocol droids is what you're referencing. No, but they had like that therapist droid that was helping the kid in that scene. But that was in that scene with the kid that like when the Wookiee was talking to him. That and I again things I liked right was like even though he felt out of place, he felt left behind, he felt left out. He still tried to help that kid, even if the kid couldn't understand him. I was again listening to that part on the audiobook, and the guy trying to do. So there are times where the Wookiee, doesn't he, like thinks to himself, and he thinks to himself in basic, not in like whatever the Wookiee thing is. Yeah, and then but on the audiobook, he'd be like, I don't know why they don't understand me. Like in this like really weird deep voice. I was like, that sounds so weird. Like again,
You could have stuck to the bit, I feel like.
yeah, definitely.
to the bit.
But like, let's Kelsey, like if we just followed 3 or 4 characters like for the entire book, and they were the focus.
Like Marchion Rowe.
Yeah,
Honestly, the Wookiee, because I would have liked more. Avar and was it Lando? Not Lando.
Loden.
Loden. That's
Loden.
And Bell.
out of every
Yeah.
are all the same. But if it would have just been like their story, even without Marchion Rowe, but just to have like maybe an in between chapter from like an in between part from the bad guy of the novel, I think it would have been way more effective.
Yeah. And I think like their idea, I did like picturing the visual of what the Nihil like base looked like, the Great Hall, which was just like this floating thing in the middle of space. And you could just push people out of it when you didn't want them there anymore. Like this giant banquet hall, like on a floating asteroid. Like that seemed pretty cool. But they called it no space. Like it was like you couldn't find it anywhere or whatever. I'm like, I know you're not in hyperspace. You're just in some part of the galaxy. Like don't stop acting like you're this cool. You're just, nobody knows where you are, but they could find it if they really wanted to.
Well, their name is the Nihil. Like,
it's true.
give them a break.
It's true. You're right.
I wouldn't say they're the most creative.
They're not. They're definitely not. And their thing. And so if you had focused on a couple of characters, it would have made. Like I did think it was that retired Jedi on the planet where they saved the people. The one they were like, this guy's a fucking badass. You don't even know. You don't even know.
Now you don't even know what's coming.
Like I liked that, right? Because I was like, that's cool. Like we never did before. And when he was like, time to go back to my old shit. Like, like I was like, okay, this is cool. Like this is like a retired gunslinger who has to come out of retirement, to help these people.
They put down the spoon.
Yeah.
Steely look in my eye.
Yeah. And I don't even remember her name, but like as a side character, I liked that, like the one that starts like tutoring Belle after Loden is gone. Yeah. Like he did a really good job of giving her a lot of personality in a very short period of time. So I remember, like, I was like, oh right, yes, her. Like I remembered her, you know? And I just wish if they had cut down the characters, that would have been a lot easier to do, because if I know who my anchor is, I can then I have space in my brain for these side characters, you know, to come in. And I wish there had just been some like human character that had been along with them for more of the time, you know,
because you need the married couple was it. He had them.
Yeah. Because they're the ones came up with the idea, right, to do like the magnetic like thing to slow down the thing. And I like. I'm a sucker for like, this is not going to work, but we should just try it, because I'm a sucker for those type of moments and stories. And I like that, because they were like, you know, because I like that conversation between the Jedi being like, I don't know if it's going to work. And I like the Jedi being like, they'll be like, we need you to do this. And the Jedi being like, what? Excuse me? And then and then be like, okay, we'll do it. We're not very happy about it, but we'll do this thing. And like, I like those moments I like, but when you fill it with so much other stuff around it, it becomes hard to remember those moments you really like. And that's, I think, the biggest problem with the book.
Yep.
Because even though it was a short book, it felt too long for what was in it.
I couldn't wait for it to end. First of all, I was listening to the audiobook at 3 times speed. I was like, let's fucking go. This is the slowest narrator ever.
Those sound effects must have been going it out. It was like weird.
And then she'd be like, and then Ava Chris heard a noise. And I was like, that was the weirdest place to put music. I was literally like, I can't wait for this to be over. And then I texted you guys, I'm like, I'm finished.
Yeah.
That's it. No comments.
Bob and I were just typing it, like, because I was on vacation for 2 weeks. That's why I finished it. I basically read the first 2 books in big chunks. Like, I finished, I think we were at chapter 21, and later that night I texted Bobby, was like, I'm done. And then I read the entire second book on the plane ride home. So,
so just so you know, the Audible Star Wars books, like all of them, they're like very lavishly produced, basically. Yeah. They've got sound effects, they've got music. Yeah. You can't see them, but they definitely got the swish transitions, like the you can hear it.
As soon as something bad is happening, like turn on their lightsabers, you're like, okay,
here we go.
Here we go. Something's happening. And every time they were about to say "We are the Republic" in this book, it was like, like, "We are the Republic." I'm like, all right.
I'm interested to see that Acolyte show that's coming on to Disney Plus. I think it's supposed to be this. Is it this year or next year? I don't remember. It's kind of soon though.
It's this year.
I think it's this year. That's that's in the High Republic era.
Aren't they making a movie about the High Republic era as well?
I don't think they haven't announced it. I don't think.
All right, so maybe I'm thinking of the TV show. Because
the 3 ones they have on the books right now are the like. Maybe they do. Because there's the Rey one, like the Jedi Order. There's like the Filoni-verse, like, you know, cap off movie, like the Heir of the Empire, Thrawn shit. They're gonna do.
I thought they were doing.
There's a 3rd one they announced. I don't remember what it was. So maybe you're right. It might be that. It could be that. Maybe it is High Republic.
Yeah, Alkalite takes place in the High Republic.
Yeah.
But
that's a Jude Law, right? I think Jude Law's in that.
I mean, I don't see him.
He's in. I thought he was in that.
I don't see him.
I thought it was Mr. Jude Law.
No, but he might be in another. There's Star Wars Skeleton Crew, which is not.
Maybe he's in that one.
Yeah, he's in Skeleton Crew.
Okay, gotcha. He's in Skeleton Crew. Okay.
But I don't know what Skeleton Crew, where that takes place.
That is part of the Star Wars taking place in the same as the Mandalorian at the same time as the
Mandalorian and Return of the Jedi. Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's also Tales of the Jedi.
That's the animated thing, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's the animated thing.
I found an article on Polygon, everything you need to know about Star Wars, the High Republic, and it is basically like that Reddit thread.
Send it over, because I don't know anything. This was my second foray into the High Republic, because I read Into the Dark first, and
Oh, they got young
I
Yoda
don't
looking all
know if they're
swole.
for me.
What'd you say, Kelsey?
This is my second book in the High Republic, and the first one was Into the Dark, and I don't know if they're for me. So one of my questions, Justin, is should I continue based on how I felt about this book? Be honest.
No, lie to her.
I think you should read the next one just to see if you like the way that these characters are written by somebody else. And if you don't, then I think you're good to stop. I will say.
What's the next one called?
What?
What's it called?
Rising Storm, I think.
Rising Storm. I will say that these books were definitely. Bobby was right. They definitely had a writers' meeting or something about who's writing what. But I'll be interested to see what you guys think of the structure of the second book.
Is he? I think Kevin Scott is a mystery writer.
Okay.
Which is interesting. That makes me a little more interested.
And Claudia Gray writes the third book in the main series, Star Wars: The Fallen Star.
Oh, this changes everything.
Yeah. I knew she wrote one of them.
So that's the one I've just started. I'm like 3 chapters in.
Yeah.
I love her.
I like to just say I like the second book better. Probably because you're introduced to more interesting ideas about this time period. The characters are cool, and you're carrying forward with some of the other characters of this book and seeing where the story goes.
Does Martian Rowe appear?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, he's in like the first chapter.
This is a long these 4 books are telling this. I'm using the word saga like it was the movies, but like this is a long story.
No, it is. It's supposed to be that. It's supposed to basically be that.
But
yeah. I mean, I will say this. I already have like every earmarked like a bunch of Star Wars books I want to read from all different eras now. Well, I want to read the new Thrawn books, like the new Timothy Zahn books. I know there were like 2 new trilogies, right? I think.
Yes.
You think? I've read the originals. I read the Heir to the Empire stuff. That you released back. That's not canon anymore. Those books are amazing. So I want to read those. I never read the Chuck Wendig books that are like that go between basically Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, the Aftermath, Star Wars Aftermath, Star Wars whatever. Yeah. I never read those, which I heard are pretty good. So I want to check some of those out as well. And then I know the Claudia, I've heard what is it? Fallen Stars?
It's Lost Stars.
Lost Stars, sorry.
It is actually, it changed my life. When I read it like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, I've read that book 3 times. Perfection.
That came out, I think, at the same time as Aftermath came out.
Friends to enemies to lovers to friends to enemies. That's where you gotta go.
That's where you gotta go.
You know what I like about the High Republic is because
just to bring it back to the topic at hand. Yes. You're right.
We're talking about Star Wars. It's all the topic.
Yeah, it's all the topic. Like I would have a hard time jumping into the books that take place in between the eras, right? Because it's just like I don't really care. Like these characters are here, but I know they don't show up in the movies, so it's like not important. It's not enough time has passed. With the High Republic, it's like this is hundreds of years ago. Most of these characters will be dead by the movie starts, but it like gives you something different. Like, well, okay, I've got a whole new trilogy of books to read about these characters now. Like to me, that's exciting. Like I don't have to go watch 1,000 episodes of the Clone Wars to know who Ahsoka is before I watch the TV show. Like, that's why I like it. Just because it's like jumping in brand new. It's like a brand new thing I'm jumping into.
Yeah, but you should spend the time learning who Ahsoka is because she fucking rules.
I know she rules. It's just a lot of TV to watch.
She fucking rules. So that's...
Like, whatever you say, Justin.
Whatever you say, Justin. You should just watch Rebels. So don't worry about his Clone Wars. Rebels rules.
Yeah, Rebels is
I know it's all really good. It's just a lot of stuff to watch.
Justin, you watch so much stuff. Just watch. It's like
you haven't even watched Ted Lasso yet.
It's 22 minutes an episode. You don't have to wait for your wife to watch Rebels. You can just watch it.
It's true.
Can you watch it with your kids? It's
Jorah
for
doesn't care about
kids.
Star Wars.
I can't get him to care about Star Wars.
Well,
I can't
maybe
get him
he'll
to care
care
about Star
about
Wars
it
at
if it's
all.
a cartoon.
And let me tell you, Kelsey, the surest way to make sure your kid doesn't give a shit about something is to try to make them care
No,
about
I
it.
know. I told my boyfriend we are not in nothing. He is just a fresh little bean, and that's what he or she wants, and that's it. we don't talk.
My son will sometimes bring up like a Marvel character or a Star Wars character, and I'm like, and then he just kind of goes off, and he's like, okay, let me keep watching these weird YouTube videos. I watch every
Miss
day.
Rachel?
No, he doesn't. He's just way too old for Miss Rachel. Kelsey. Miss Rachel's
I
for
don't
like.
know who Miss Rachel is. It's just
She's like
I
a infant,
know
like new
of her.
infant. Like she just helps like
Yeah.
kids like learn and shit. You know.
Aw.
No, he watches weird like weird YouTubers, like weird kids
Started.
YouTubers. Man, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. I sometimes I watch and I'm like, I sometimes go to him like, dude, what are you watching?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, this is Rachel Zamalo, and I'm like,
There's better
like-
stuff out there.
okay, man, there's so much better stuff you could be watching.
It's like when my godson, like, he'll show me a video on TikTok and he's like laughing, and I'm like, haha.
Kelsey, great with kids.
It made me
Fantastic.
feel old as fuck when he was doing that. I was like, this is what you find funny?
How old is he?
20.
Oh God. I thought he was like a kid.
I really thought he was a kid too. That's why I said that.
No,
yeah.
no, the generational divide is there. It's scary.
I will say watching TikTok does help me understand, or not understand, but keep up with certain like trends and songs and stuff like that my son knows. So he'll be like shocked and impressed that I know certain things that he knows.
Yeah, it's like when I randomly say a TikTok sound. They're like, huh.
Yeah.
Nice one with the youths.
He was talking about the grimace shake the other day.
Yeah.
And I
I got a rabbit hole to understand that. I was like, yeah, like,
Mark's
this
right.
is
Hello,
me
fellow
now.
youth. Yeah.
yeah,
This is me
exactly.
now. You guys used to do that with me, and now I'm
Uh-huh.
feeling this pain.
Kelsey, we still do it with you.
Yeah.
I know, but like at least
No,
you can
Kelsey's
relate,
old enough now where
Yeah.
she has none of like she's not tuned into, she's basically as old
Yeah.
as we were when we were
Yeah.
podcasting with Kelsey.
Yeah, like, it's been so long. And
Yeah.
I was literally like a fresh little naive little baby.
Uh-huh.
I knew nothing. Now I'm withered.
You were never naive.
I'm
or
30.
fresh. You're 30.
Naive about,
Mhm.
I know. It's gross.
I always know how old Kelsey is because she is like exactly 10 years younger than me. So I always know how
I
old
know
she is.
exactly how old you guys are. Like 10 years.
I remember when you were like 20, you're like, I can't believe I'm turning 26. I'm having a crisis. I'm like, Kelsey, shut the fuck up.
It was my quarter life crisis.
You're a child still.
Do you want to speak quickly about a midlife crisis, just to really get off topic?
Yeah, sure.
You're not there
We're at
yet.
the end of the show.
We're at the end of the show. We're just
Kelsey, we're exactly there. Wait, how old do you think we're gonna live to be?
Longer. Science will advance.
Maybe, but we don't know that for sure. So I'm guessing that I'm
There
about
might not
halfway
be-
through my
There might
life.
not be science 10 years from now in America.
Yeah.
You know what? You're right.
It's gonna be The Last of Us in like 3 years. So it's
So I was in California for 2 weeks, and I came home with a skateboard.
Oh my god, Justin.
I mean, Jorah got one too, but it's there. You
That's
can
a
see
sign.
it. It's next to my TV. It's right up there. It's yellow.
I see it. It's there. It's bright yellow on top of it.
I was like, you bought a skateboard. I think I was most appalled by is they bought it in California, had to bring it home on a plane with him.
2 of them.
2 of them. Like, could have bought a skateboard anywhere,
It was
Justin.
really inspired by like Rodeo Drive.
If I had never
Rodeo.
if I didn't do it there, Rodeo Drive.
Rodeo Drive.
I'm not American.
Come on, you don't have to be American to know the name of the street.
I don't know
It's like one of the most
anything
famous
about
streets in
West
the world.
Coast. No, it's
But
not.
you knew-
That's
you
very
knew the-
American.
Rodeo
You knew the
Drive.
street though, Kelsey, because you said it.
You said
It's
it.
spelled the same way.
I've never heard it
Oh, really?
phonetically. I've only
Rodeo Drive. It's not like it's not like a road full of like cowboys.
It's because when a show needs to tell you it's in California,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be like The Waves, Rodeo Drive,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hollywood Sign, and I'm like, okay, I know where we are, and I know 210.
Yeah.
I saw the Hollywood sign.
Yeah. It's small.
Wow.
I will say the observatory was really cool.
The observatory is awesome. Griffith Observatory, it rules. It's beautiful.
Is it NASA?
No, but I did see the Challenger, or not the Challenger, Endeavor.
If you Google a picture of the Griffith Observatory, Kelsey, you've seen it before. It's been in 7 million movies and TV shows.
Oh,
And
no.
Yeah, the dome. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Look at me. I know American things.
You know Los Angeles.
I know American things for when you come and visit America and don't tell us.
Yeah.
Because I had a packed weekend.
All right. The last 20 minutes are just getting on Kelsey about her not
know.
seeing us.
I know I did learn that this means something. And it's south of something. South of
Houston. South of Houston.
South of Houston.
Houston Street.
And what's the O for?
That's nothing.
Oh.
I'm right? Market south of Houston, right? I'm right about that.
I knew, and isn't there one like Dumbo?
Yeah, Dumbo's in Brooklyn.
Yeah, okay. You see?
Look at you.
It's like right by the Brooklyn Bridge. Brooklyn
That's right.
Bridge.
I watched How I Met Your Mother. I learned this thing.
Star Wars.
Wait, we have to pick our next book because I honestly, guys, forgot.
Didn't you? You already picked the book. I already bought the book.
I bought the book too.
Can I go? You want me to go get it? Can I go get it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
hold
tell
on.
me because my brain, I literally can't even imagine what the book is.
I like how the both of you got to pick books again. With the one book that I picked, we never talked about. Like, what the hell?
That's Bobby's fault.
I know that's Bobby's fault, but I wanted to at least talk about the book that I picked. But no, I gotta wait till September. I bought all these books in advance and like thinking about it.
Okay.
What are you yelling about me for? What did I do wrong again now? You still talking about the Glass Hotel? Let it go, Justin.
I want to pick a book and read and talk about it.
You and I weren't supposed to pick any books. It was supposed to be Kelsey picking the books. She's the professor.
Yeah, but I don't.
Yeah,
have
I'm
this
allowing
read.
democracy in my classroom.
Born by Jeff Vandermeer.
Yeah, I have it. Okay.
I have
Perf.
downloaded it.
Perfs. And our live show will be in August because I get back from Portugal.
Oh well, now who's showing off?
Yeah,
I'm in
you know,
Cancun in
just
August, so
an American. What?
Just goes on vacation every fucking 2 weeks.
When are you going? Where are you going?
Cancun.
Cancun.
It's my 20th anniversary,
Fancy.
so we're going back to where we had our honeymoon.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
So you're leaving that week?
No, I'm leaving the. It's not a long trip. It's like a long weekend. I leave the 8th. I come back 13th.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So we could do it the week after.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm gonna hopefully read like 3 books while I'm down there.
Oh my god, look at you guys like being inspired by me. It's so beautiful.
We were inspired by you. I'm also reading the Midnight Library right now.
I love Matt Haig.
I bought the Midnight Library for Angela while we were at the airport.
Oh really?
That and
Humans
the
is really good
Invisible
by
Life
him.
of Addie.
Addie LaRue?
Yes,
I love she's my favorite author. And I actually
I
just
saw you
finished
posts.
my 3rd read of her fantasy series of Dark Shade of Magic, which is my favorite series in the whole universe.
Is it good though?
Kelsey, did you ever accept my friend request on Goodreads? By the way.
I did.
Okay.
You would know if you went on.
I did go on, but it didn't give me like a big update or anything. I tried to friend Kelsey, and it was like, you have to go through a test before you can friend me on Goodreads, sir.
It's because random people add me, and then they'll just be like in the messages like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Ew, get away from me."
They say
so
hey, and you're
now-
like, no.
Yeah,
I feel bad about my username now.
yeah, creepy. So now I make them at least answer a thing, and if they just want to talk to me, to like,
I got no
solicit-
notification that you became my friend.
No,
by
no,
the way.
yeah.
I didn't even know you guys were on Goodreads.
appear-
Thanks for the invite. Jerks.
I looked for you. You're not
Um,
there. Oh, I see.
no.
Now you're in my activity feed now.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. That's all it does. That's how you know.
Well, I got one from somebody else, but anyway, yeah, I got the Midnight Library, and I'm gonna read that. I went to the library, the actual library, and got that book. And I put that book that you put a picture of on Instagram because the cover was so fucking cool.
Which-
Gideon the Ninth. Yeah,
Yeah, I have it here.
and then of course I put it. Of course, it's part of a series. I'm like, of course.
Of course. Well, to be fair, the book you picked out also part of a series.
Yes, I know. So is this one, by the way. We just read this. Yes, that one. Yes, it's a cool cover.
It is a cool
It's
cover.
really good too.
What's
if I
that?
could recommend it.
It's on my want to read list.
Kelsey, what do you do with all these books? Where do you
They're in a
have
pile, a hidden pile behind her that she won't show us.
I mean, I could show just for fun, but like
Just boxes of books back there, huh?
them? Yeesh.
it's
Shouldn't you get a shelf or something back there, Kelsey?
Okay, listen, I have 2 shelves that
You just moved in 2 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, but it's because honestly, this room is like the last room, and like I'm not worried about it right now. Like we have the shelves, and they're here. It's just that I only sit in here to like do Microsoft Teams calls, and then I go back on my laptop. So, and I play Rainbow Six Siege on this computer now. West, have you guys heard of it? West and the Mouse.
Let me tell you what else. My to read list is short, Kelsey. I want to tell you what it is,
Okay.
and then you can critique or give me other recommendations. Okay.
Oh, my to read list is like 35 books.
Well, I just joined. I've been on Goodreads for like 15 years, but I never use it. So I just started using it. I just started filling it out. I'm sure it would be longer if I actually really thought about it. So I put Gideon the Ninth on there. I've got Station 11 on there because I didn't actually read it. So I got that. Last Night in Montreal I've got on there. Tomorrow I've got on there.
I nearly bought that.
I love that book. That was my favorite book of last
Oh,
year.
I got to move the Midnight Library from want to read to currently reading.
Oh my god, look at you.
Signing up.
Annihilation.
Ooh, I read Annihilation.
So good.
I got Born on there as well, which I'll move to currently reading once we do it. Yellowface by R.F. Kang, which I heard great things about.
Yeah.
I have those 3 education books by what's her name, Naomi Novik, but I heard there was like controversy around her or something that happened. Yes, we don't have to get into it. But I'm saying that. And Book Lovers by Emily Henry is also on here, which I looked up a list of books and I read the descriptions and I was like, this sounds interesting.
It's a romance book. Emily Henry,
I'm varied, Kelsey. In my
He's
my
got
likes.
a lot of erotica he likes to read.
Yeah, but that's not a separate list. It's on a separate account.
That's if you join TikTok and you go on Book Talk, they love the smut.
Every once in a while, my For You gives me a little book talk, and I'm like, I can't.
So I don't like blending the world. I'm like, I don't want this. Is my separate. This is for laughs.
Yeah, I just want to see cat videos. Let's keep going. All right.
Oh me, corgis. Well,
Oh my goodness.
I think this is where we will end because I'm developing a tan from my ring light. But
dramatic.
next month, well, this month actually, July.
Justin and I both have blaringly bright lights on our faces right now. We haven't complained once.
Okay, good for you guys. Anyways, next month we're reading. Where did this thing go?
I don't know why you turned his camera off.
Oh, I turned my camera off?
Yes.
I'm trying to get to my email so I can sign up for Goodreads.
Okay.
Anyways, this month, July, we're reading Born by Jeff Vandermeer. And everybody has to read it for next month, the week of August 14th. Right? Yes. And we'll be quizzed. And hopefully, like this one, maybe we'll have the existential dread
100%.
that I need that Charlie did not provide me.
Charlie did not.
Charlie provided me happiness and positivity and working together. And I didn't like it.
You hated it. You want the world's gonna fucking end.
Solo existential.
And there's nothing we can do about it. Reckon with your life.
Suffering.
Exactly.
By
Stop
Jeff Vandermeer.
Think about it. Think about it, swallow, and live. That's what I want.
That should be your sign off from now on. Think about it small and live.
Yes. Anyways, with that, thank you, future watchers. Thank you, current watchers. And do I say thank you, Bobby?
Oh my god.
It's your show. You can say whatever you want. I'm not in charge.
I feel like it's not complete if I don't do it.
Okay, then do it.
No, but it works better when you do it.
You're in charge now. This is all your thing now.
You sent us a link for joining this thing.
I
You're the
know.
host.
Aren't you
You
guys
have to
impressed
control
with
it.
me?
Very impressed.
Very
Oh my
impressed.
God.
I was terrified. I'm pretty sure we were going to use something like this, but I was terrified. I texted Kelsey first on the side to be like, "How are we handling the technical stuff today?" And she was like, "Oh, just showing this link." I was like, "Oh, thank God." I thought you were gonna be like, I thought you were gonna do the usual thing. I was like, "No."
Can you imagine? That would have been mean of me. No. She's growing. She's 30.
Yeah, she's 30.
Oh my God. Okay. I don't know. Thanks, everyone. I don't want to do it. I feel uncomfortable. I feel like you had it solid and I don't have it.
They're just names, but
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Justin.
thank you, Kelsey.
Oh my God. Yay. Okay. Think about it. Swallow and live. Bye.